All right, so believe it or not, it has been 2 years since we've done a video about the special program here in Florida called the Hometown Heroes Program. And there's a big reason why we're doing another video on that today, because there's some exciting news. The state of Florida is coming out and they're going to be putting more money into that program, which is a really great thing for people who meet the criteria. And we're going to be talking about that. And I only thought that it would be fitting if we could bring back the guy from 2 years ago, a lot more gray than he was then. Me too. Don't worry about it. I've got Tim Hart with me from Van Dyke Mortgage. Tim, welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Doesn't seem like 2 years. I look forward to the before and after photos that we both have.
We should do that. Maybe that'll be the thumbnail. Maybe
I'm going
not,
out on a limb, and I'm going to say mine's worse.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's like, I'm not going to fight you on that. I'm not going to fight you on that particular thing. So, well, let's get into some of the meat and potatoes here. So the program was I call it an overwhelming success in that all of the $100 million that was put into the money previously evaporated very quickly. So that tells us that the market really needed that. But give us some foundation about what the Hometown Heroes program is.
Yeah, so Hometown Heroes, and you are correct, when they rolled that program out, it was a massive success. And it went from where initially it was Hometown Heroes, meaning nurses, firefighters, cops, right, teachers, veterans, etc. And then they opened that up on the second round to everybody. And we'll get into the details of what it entails now. And once they did that, that money goes very, very quickly. State of Florida, they wanted to give assistance to promote home ownership. And this is one way they did it. You know, cash to close is a big deal for a lot of people. They make the income, they have the good credit scores, but they just don't have that, 5% laying around or the 3.5%. And they may not have the resources to go borrow it from mom or dad, So state of Florida came up with, it's a pretty cool program and we can dive into it. But I'm a fan, you're a fan, and every borrower we've put into it loves it. They're super happy about it.
Yeah, and here's the deal. From my perspective, it is catering to people who didn't get to experience some of the benefits of appreciating in real estate when we had a lot of the post-COVID boom. And, it can be challenging. We all know with inflation and cost of groceries and everything else, like it's hard to save these days. And so for people who have had the desire to own a home, this is a way to be able to help with the down payment and be able to own a home when you couldn't before, so that in the future you can reap those benefits of appreciation. Because if we have somebody who's owned a home for a long period of time, let's say that there has been appreciation, they've gained equity over time, they can utilize a lot of those funds to be able to make a down payment on the next home. And this class of people doesn't have that. The first time home buyers, they don't have that, I'll call it home bank account to be able to tap into. They've literally got to be like, I made this dollar to be able to save, to be able to put as a down payment. And this really helps from that perspective. So that's why I love it. I believe in home ownership. And, personally, I've had a lot of positive things that come from it. I know you have as well. And it's an opportunity there for people who otherwise may not be able to enjoy what home ownership is all about.
And to add to your point there, Brad, and those are great points, is all these new homeowners, they're first-time home buyers. They missed out on buying when rates were 2-3% range, right? And the chance to refinance at that time if they did own the home as well. So, those are great points, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the program now, there's been a few key changes that have taken place. So first of all, how much money is going into it and what are the changes, and at the end of the day, somebody who's watching this is like, how do I get me some of that, government money? That's what they're asking. So tell us how.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to start as talking about what the down payment assistance is. And because that's one of the big points is, how much are they getting? What is it? And so there are limits involved in this. And so it starts off with 5% of the loan amount. So not the sales price, but the loan amount. $300,000 loan amount, they're getting $15,000. This money goes towards down payment and or closing costs. Okay, so we call that cash to close on our side, right? It's a down payment and closing costs. They're both due at closing. Sometimes the seller can pay it, the buyer pays it, split the difference, whatever. So the buyer will have this $15,000 in this example to go towards that down payment and the closing cost. And so there's a minimum for that 5% of the loan amount, $10,000 minimum. Maximum is $35,000. So those are the two in betweens there. And what happens for the borrower, if they're watching this, because this is one of the questions we get all the time when we're talking about hometown heroes is, what do I owe back? What do I owe, when I sell, refinance, or do I owe a monthly payment or whatever? And so the best way we explain this to someone is saying, this is like your rich Uncle Joe saying, here's $15,000. I'll use that same example, right? 300 grand. Here's $15,000, Brad. Go buy yourself a home. You don't owe me any money. You don't owe me interest. Just when you sell it or you refinance it, you pay me back, right? That's what the state of Florida has done. It's a lien against the house, but there's no monthly payments. There's no interest accruing on it. They give you $15,000 and you sell it or refinance it at any time, that money's owed back. So sometimes people think it's like, hey, it's just free. It's free money. They're giving it away. The money will get paid back. It's just there's no interest accruing on it. Did that make sense?
It makes a whole lot of sense. And I wish that I had a rich Uncle Joe who, could have helped me out when this program wasn't available when I bought my first home. But that's very clear to me. So there's no interest on it. But when you go to sell, you just have to pay that back from the proceeds of the sale. So,
or refinance. We've got to refinance.
Okay. If we have appreciation in the market, that's great because it just comes off the bottom line of what you get back. And then you get to take that. It's essentially them giving you a loan so that you can benefit from appreciation in the market, assuming that prices go up.
Exactly right. Taking you out from a renter to a homeowner with no money out of your pocket sometimes.
Mm-hmm. One big thing that I want to talk about is the difference in the market compared to what it was in 2022 to fast forward to 2024. And it excites me even more today than it did back then, because you were talking about, it can go towards closing costs, but buyers today are actually able to negotiate a heck of a lot more than they could back in 2022. So we're seeing all types of scenarios where we can negotiate the seller paying for all of or some of those closing costs, or we can negotiate off, in a bigger way from the purchase price. And in 2022, that market was such to where people are paying way over asking price. Sellers wouldn't contribute to anything. And so these buyers today have a lot better scenario for dealing with utilizing this Hometown Heroes program than they did. So that's pretty exciting stuff there.
No, absolutely. And that's part of it. When they go through that pre-approval process, we go back to that realtor and say, hey, they need to have, the seller to pay 3% or all of it or whatever that may be. Plus we have their down payment money, and all that gets structured out during that process. So that's a good point as well. Do you want to get into the other qualifications for it?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Who is this for? Who qualifies for the program?
There's two major things that if you're watching this that you need to be aware of, I think personally. And the number one thing is, are you a first-time home buyer? All right. That's what the state of Florida is looking for. They're first-time home buyers. And so how they define a first-time home buyer in Florida for this program is you cannot have owned a home and lived in it within the last 3 years. And so what I want to do is kind of like dive into a little bit of what can still qualify for, because sometimes you'll have people. So if you've never owned a home before, right? Like you're in. Okay. So like that one, you're good to go there. But if you have owned a home, like say someone moved down from New York, right? Owned a home in New York, moved down here a few years ago, been renting. Maybe they didn't feel like buying yet, wasn't sure where they're going to stay or whatever, right? So they owned their home in New York, rented it out, and then they moved down here. But they have not lived in that home in the last 3 years. They're considered a first-time home buyer. So you still own a home. It's just you cannot have lived in it in the last 3 years of a home you own. Did that make sense?
It does, yeah. And also, I read something about this. I haven't had any personal experience in this with any of our clients, but there's some kind of caveat in there as far as if you're a single parent and the previous home was owned with a spouse and you're no longer married. Is there something to that effect?
I'd to look into it. Maybe exception-based stuff. There is one.
Yeah, like there's certain qualifications. Like if somebody was married, but the only home that they ever owned was as a married couple, and now they are single or single parents. that they may qualify for it. So it doesn't sound like we can say that with 100% on here, but it sounds like that may be an opportunity to open up some criteria there for people.
Yeah, I'll look at them and get back with you on that.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Now, the one thing, Brad, on that point about first-time homebuyers, veterans are exempt. So if you're a veteran, you own a home currently, you can still use this loan, the Hometown Heroes loan, with a VA loan and be considered a first-time homebuyer.
That's a big deal. That is a very big deal. So no matter what, they can have access to these funds.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Part two of these, right? There's 1A, 1B. So you got to have both of these. Okay. It's for people that work for Florida-based companies, and they want you to be full-time. Okay, you got to be a full-time employer, and it has to be a Florida-based company. And so what that means to anyone watching this is it has to be a brick and mortar business. All right. So if it doesn't mean the corporation has to be based in Florida, use Apple, for example. Okay? Apple Corporation, not based in Florida. Right. But they have Apple stores, physical locations in Florida. So if you're a first time home buyer and you are full time working at Apple store, physical location, you will qualify for the employment part of this loan, because no longer is it just nurses, fire. And this is a big point. I should stress this. It's no longer nurses, firefighters, teachers, some doctors, things like that. It's opened up to everybody that works full time in Florida-based company. Right? So Van Dyke Mortgage, for example, we're based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. I have a physical location right here in Fort Myers, Florida. If someone works for me and they're considered a first-time home buyer, they would hit the other qualification for a Florida-based company because they're full-time at a physical location in Florida.
So the work from home crowd, that could be a potential challenge.
100%. If you work from home for a corporation like Microsoft, I got a buddy I just talked to him this morning. He works from home, but he works for Microsoft. They won't work. You can't qualify. If you're part-time, under 35 hours a week, you won't qualify for it. It's got to be full-time. But you work from home crowd, I talked to a trucker a few days ago. He has a CDL. He works for a company, drives all over the country. They're based in Jersey. But he lives here and he can't qualify for it.
Got it. Yeah, and at the end of the day, it makes sense, right? It's state money that they want to stay within the state and go. So I can understand that component of it.
They're giving the money out, so they're making the rules.
Sure. And the amount of funds. So the last portion that was funded was how much previously?
They went through about 100 million total.
Okay. So 100 million, and you have more experience than even we do. Right. That's what I was gonna say. How quickly did that money get used?
Yeah, I wish I could go back and look. I know it was, I think within about 3 months, it was gone. And occasionally, they did refund it. I think once we got it refunded. And like I was telling you, sometimes you'll get where you have loan fallout, and you'll have extra money. They'll email everybody, hey, we got whatever, $5 million here. And it gets eaten up that day, maybe the next, by all the lenders in Florida.
And this round, just so everybody is aware, is for $100 million. And that begins on July 1st, correct?
Correct. July 1st. And if you have anyone watching this, one of the suggestions I'd like to give them, and you're probably going to say this too, is get pre-approved now. Like, when this comes out, just get pre-approved ASAP so you're ready for July 1. You can even be out looking for homes. You can be under contract. We just only need a week or two after July to make sure we reserve the funds. But no one knows how long it'll last. And there's also no one saying, hey, when this runs out, we're getting refunded again, whatever, in November 1. They don't know.
Sure. And so at the stage, like, you're able to go through and pre-qualify somebody to say you do qualify for this. You get to make that judgment call, correct?
Right. Yep.
Okay. And so there's no reason to wait until July 1st, because if they do, then they run the risk of they have to have a property under contract in order to be able to apply for the funds. Is that correct?
Well, no, what we would do is, so we've got several going already that are under contract, mid-July closings. And what we're doing is we're underwriting it as an FH. So Hometown Heroes, that loan is just a second mortgage that goes along with the conventional loan, a VA, an FHA, right? Any of those loan types. So we will fully underwrite the loan, knowing that when the funds become available July 1, we're going to flip it, add in the Hometown Hero stuff, but appraisal, title work, income, all this stuff's already done. The sellers, everyone knows you're closing mid-July sometime.
Okay, got it. And so it's very advantageous now to know. And once, as long as they don't run out of money, but you've pre-qualified them, they will get it. Like there's no, that's the only caveat is they can't be out of money.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't run out of money yet. Yeah, but for the most part, Hometown Heroes is almost always going to go off of the lender's underwriting of it. You got the income limits and a few other things there you got to fit in, but like overall, they're going to go along with basic FHA guidelines, basic conventional guidelines. What did the lender say? And that's what they run with.
Okay. And like the type of person that I am is not one to be like, you better act now. Like that's not the type of business that we typically run here. But this is truly a limited time, scarce resource that must be tapped into. And I want to make sure that we're emphasizing this. Like I wanted to do this because I believe the opportunity is so great for people who are in a position where they need this money, that getting that pre-qualification done as soon as possible before July is important. And to Tim's point, you can be under contract now as long as the closing date is beyond that July 1st. And I would assume you're going to give yourself a couple of weeks just to work out all the details and be funded. But it's just like strike while the iron's hot, and we've got to get things going. Anything else that we should know about the program?
Well, if you're watching this and you're interested in the program, the one thing I want to stress to you is, you may think your credit's not good enough. You may think you don't qualify. What I want you to do, all right, I'm a little more pushy maybe than Brad on this. I want you to apply. Okay, I want you to go through that process with a lender. Hopefully it's us. If it's not, it's okay. But go through that process with a lender. Let them tell you, hey, your credit score is just a little short. You need to do X, Y, and Z. Or, hey, you need another 2 months on the job, or whatever it may be. And so don't think you can't qualify for this loan or any other loan. Go through the application process. Let a lender tell you, hey, surprise, you're approved. You're pre-approved. Get out there and start looking. Or we coach you on what to do next. So I would just implore you, if you want to own a home, go through the process to get it started. It's free. By the way, Brad, there's no obligation to it.
Well, you said don't think that you can't qualify. And I would also add to that, don't think that you can qualify necessarily.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people who there's some kind of a past pay medical, in collections or, and you've had hundreds of these, I'm sure, but it's just like some small little thing. The earlier that you can figure out that there's a blemish on something, that if we were able to work through that you would then be able to qualify, the better. So that's a huge component in this entire thing.
Perfect point. A lot of people think they do qualify and something pops up. I can give you 1,000 examples of that. And I know you could
weird all the time. Like, I'm not worried about it. Like I've got this and this and it'll be fine. And it's like, I'm not disagreeing with you, but let's just make sure the lender believes that as well.
Yeah. Just a real quick example. A lady called me, said the same thing, pulled the credit, 400 credit scores, had no clue. She had 35 years of clean payment history, co-signed for her son's four-wheeler. He paid it late every month for like 3 years straight, and she never knew it, and her scores were tanked.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Happens.
Got it. Good. So what I'll ask everybody here to do, first of all, let's thank and give Tim a lot of love, for coming on the channel. I'm also going to put a link below and an email, info@gulfpointproperties.com. So if you can just reply and put in the subject line Hometown Heroes, you don't have to try to spell heroes correctly. We'll figure that out because it's got the extra E and whatever. But that's how we'll know that you have interest in that program, and we can get you in touch with him. And again, you can use any lender, but obviously he's gracious with his time, and I shouldn't say any lender. You can use any lender who has the ability to write these loans. But we know Tim does an amazing job in working with him for a lot of years. And so, you're certainly in good hands there. And
thanks,
obviously, If you're looking for real estate in the state of Florida, we are able to refer to other locations. We're located in Southwest Florida, but we have a huge network of amazing agents around the state. So even if you are not specifically looking in Southwest Florida, still reach out to us because we can put you in touch with some great agents who are out there as well. And until next time, thanks for watching, guys. Have an awesome day.
Have a good day. Thank you.